10x your service design offering with Smaply. Take 20% off any order with This Is HCD 20 off. Let's superpower you and your design team's potential. Sign up at smaply.app. Enjoy the episode from your friends at Smaply, helping support This Is HCD podcast.
Welcome to Worldwide Waste, a podcast about how digital is killing the planet and what to do about it. Beth Stensen has led design projects and processes since 2001, in recent years with customer-driven innovation and service development as her primary focus. Beth is uncompromising in her belief in user orientation and deeply resents the tech hysteria that characterises much of the discussions surrounding digitalisation. Businesses should first and foremost solve real problems for real people. She is the CEO of Norwegian agency Netlife Design, which is a long-time partner of mine. Netlife Design is shifting their focus from customer experience to earth experience, using top tasks and do less as key principles. I started our conversation by asking about the journey from customer experience to earth experience.
I'll start with Netlife, actually, because Netlife has sort of been the pioneers in Norway in terms of, focusing on people making digital services and solutions that are useful for people. We were one of the first in Norway who sort of put usability into a context of digital development, and we've been doing that for 20 years. And I've basically been doing that for 20 years as well, really focusing on the user experience and making things useful and simple for people, easily accessible, discovering user needs and making sure that people get what they need, not necessarily what they want. And then I had, for the last 4 years, just before I rejoined Netlife as their CEO, I had 4 years developing a department of innovation in Ruter, which is the administration company for public transport in Oslo. And they have a huge reach of huge in Norwegian terms anyway, of 4 million users every year. It's pretty big, and the impact is pretty big. And I think the responsibility for the public transportation authorities is big as well, in terms of developing solutions that are both good for the citizens of Oslo and good for the planet. And I must say that combining my experiences there and getting really to know the impacts of the job we're doing on the planet itself, I started sort of having doubts about is this focus on people, this focus on the user, have we exaggerated that? Really been really been passionate about it and fighting for it internally in our organizations, because every single organizations that I've worked for, except Netlife, of course, have been very much focused on their own type of their own production and their own outputs, rather than on the outcomes of the users. And then I started thinking well, what about the outcomes for the planet? And then I rejoined Netlife last year, and we are in a unique position in Norway. We're for the last 5 years we won the awards, winning the best sort of design and tech company in Norway, awarded by our potential and existing clients. And it's like, well, we can do something more. We can do something bigger. Combining that with everything that you discover around you about, the humans are not good for this planet. Our focus on, developing services for humans may not have been the right path. And so you sort of have an existential crisis. you sort of think, well, do I need to just sort of retreat to my farm and just do farming for the rest of my life and live off what the earth can give me? But I'd rather use this position to, to change the mindsets of our clients and sort of see how we can integrate the planet into our design thinking and sort of call it earth experience rather than customer and user experience. How can we change our priorities, and how can we change our clients' priorities in terms of what they develop and what they put out on the market?
Yeah, it's a very interesting journey because, as you say, I've been working in one way or another with Netlife since I think about 2007. So,
Yeah.
And so I've been a little part of the journey, or we've interacted a lot over the years, and you were pioneers not just in Norway, but in it was this global, really putting the user, the customer first was not very common in many environments that we came from. And we still exist within a very organization-centric or production-centric model of society. So we felt, together in the sense that we were really we were the good guys and the good girls, we were really on the side of whatever was the good side, and that, the other side maybe was not quite as good or not quite as efficient, and it is that shock. I had a similar shock. I don't know, maybe just a couple of years ago, and because it was impossible to avoid the climate change debate that was being driven by the young generation and so many pioneers in that space, and then I was just thinking, like, well, what's the role that digital plays in all this? And as I dug into it, you discover things like that there's 200,000 trees cut down every year just to deal with digital returns in the US.
Yeah.
And that we as designers, I remember reading about Zappos and thinking, oh, it's so amazing. They sell shoes and they make it so easy to return. Wow, that's so clever. That's so brilliant. And then begin to realize that, we've made it so easy to return that people return 3 times as much in a digital environment than they returned in a physical environment. And then when you think underneath that, are we just making it so easy to buy, just so easy to consume? So, and wow, are we making it, is digital making it really easy to consume the planet?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the sort of drawback by thinking about all the experience and everything that we've been fighting for the last 20 years. Is like, where we've been working really hard to make it easier for people to consume, but I think the not mistake, but because it's not a mistake, we fail and then we learn, and now we've learned that we need to see people as something more than just users and consumers. We are humans living in the context of the earth, and bring that context in. What is good for us is also good for the planet, and we know that it's not good for us. It's not good for us to consume more, and it's definitely not good for the planet to consume more. So how can we sort of build mechanisms into our digital solutions that make you sort of stop and think? I had one pretty powerful experience in Ruter where we were exploring different ticketing solutions, and one of the key principles was people should travel with us without having to think. And I stopped at that and I said, hey, why? What's so bad about thinking? I'm not saying build in loads of bad mechanisms, but what's wrong with having people needing to use their creativity or their sense of discovery or whatever else to sort of think about the choices that they're making them aware and educating them along the way as well about the impacts of the different choices that they're making.
Absolutely. You just remind me there of the famous book, Don't Make Me Think.
Yes, exactly.
Steve Krug, who I met once or twice, a lovely person, and of course we all took that as our Bible in a way,
Yeah,
or this sort of concept.
absolutely.
Oh, our design is, our purpose is to not make people think, to make it so easy that they run through it, that they can their gut instinct, and then you think, oh, and like we need to make people think,
Yeah.
in certain ways, and pause and say, because it's like you can't have fast fashion without digital. I mean, digital kind of turned fashion into fast fashion, Instagram culture, the digital designing on the iPads, all the technologies to speed up, and the result is we buy 5 times as much clothes as we did 20 years ago, and we wear them for half as long, and we dump enormous quantities every year, and that sort of culture is destroying. I mean, the fashion industry is the next most polluting industry on the planet, next to the oil industry, and how do we make people think with digital, or make people pause, and because it goes against the e-commerce consumption model. Is there a balance that says, okay, returns are really bad, right? Imagine if we could sell less, but our return rate would only be 4% instead of 20%.
Exactly.
Is there something where there's a win, or that that okay, we sell less now, but we sell to people over 15 years because they trust us. They say, we say, do you really need this jacket, Beth? You've already got one. You bought one, 6 months ago. Maybe we could repair that one, or, and that you say to them, wow, I'm going to come back to this website again when I need stuff, because it seems like they're on my side, like they're helping me make the right decision.
Exactly.
I wonder, how can we get that sort of design thinking?
Yeah, well, that's sort of, we're fighting against human nature, Gerry. And we're fighting against like massive sort of business structures, economic structures, where the focus is on the gains and the production of things, the selling of things, and the generation of value. So for us as an agency, we basically need to start with each individual client, exploring for them, is there a potential here in terms of building earth experience into design process, and making them aware that there are other goals involved in developing digital than business goals and user goals. There's other stakes at play. Like Norway is famous for their sportswear, like ski sportswear and stuff. And one of the biggest manufacturers now, Bergans, it's an international brand. They've now started renting out ski gear, like really expensive stuff that you normally and it's very fashion oriented as well. It's like you buy a new jacket for 800 or 900 euros every other year, because this constant cycle of fashion. But they've actually started out a hiring concept, and we have also a new startup in Oslo that offers women to rent sort of party dresses and the more sort of expensive style items, so you don't have to buy them yourself. So there's definitely a trend. There's definitely sort of a business potential in that. But I think, making people think of everything they put out there in terms of a circular fashion rather than a linear fashion. I think that's the main challenge, because there needs to be some form of responsibility for everyone that produces anything to say, I take responsibility for this. I will make sure I follow this to its end type of thing.
Well, that's an interesting idea, and kind of this owning things. I think in digital, I think what we notice a lot, either in agencies or stuff, is that people create wireframes or content, and then they don't own it anymore. They don't look after it. They don't reuse it. They don't. There's. It doesn't get deleted when it needs to be deleted, and stuff like that. Maybe talk a little bit about how you discovered that that within the staff in Netlife were kind of thinking around the same ideas that you were thinking of, that it wasn't you weren't introducing some sort of an alien concepts that they were saying.
No, absolutely not. I think because Netlife has always been very much focused on making the most important stuff, and not putting just about anything out there, and also not just helping make stuff for our clients, but also helping them, manage the stuff that they make. But we need to take our own medicine as well, because when I came back, I had a really hard time just finding something on the server. Like, we produce so much stuff every day that can consume so much energy. I think you said it so well, Gerry. Well, like driving a 4-ton diesel truck down the streets of Oslo, using our Google Drive. So it was definitely not new thinking when I came in, but I just think I sort of unleashed the power in the company as I started talking about the Earth experience, because there were so many people discussing it already in terms of why do we in every single instance make digital? Do we need to make this thing? Can we make it simpler? Can we make it in a way that is not digital if it doesn't need to be? We just developed a new business strategy and brand platform, and one of the cores there is we make what humans and the world actually needs. Okay, so in every single project that we go into, in every single evaluation of all employees, we need to consider, are you helping us make what the world actually needs? And I have one great example. We have an excellent consultant called Björn. I think you met him a few times, and he's very experienced. We had a huge contract for a client. We were going to develop both a new website and a new intranet. And he sort of looks at the intranet and all the sort of internal systems that we have, and he goes to the steering group at the clients, and he says, "You don't need an intranet. You can forget about your new intranet. You need to make the stuff that you already have work for people." I'm really proud when stuff like that happens, because then I know that our people actually then our primary focus is not making as much money as we can for our agency. Our primary focus is making what's best for people and the planet. And that really makes me proud, Gerry. I want more of those stories. And I must also add that made us lose 100,000 euros, because that was 100,000 euros in fees. But I'm not bothered, I prefer to make and be proud of what we do.
Today, I had a very interesting discussion with a technical expert who does a lot of analysis of data centers and cloud centers and stuff like that. And there's an estimate now that by 2035, there will be something like 2,000 zettabytes of data in the world. And zettabytes are almost unimaginable. One zettabyte, if you were to print out 1 zettabyte, it would take something like 20 trillion trees. We're on a totally unsustainable path of content creation and data creation. how are we going to get, a handle on all this relentless tsunami of data that's coming at us?
Well, I think we need to sort of realize that we need to a lot of the work that we do is about cleaning up, finding out what's the most important thing and then focusing on that and sort of deleting, erasing whatever else. And I think that's the only way to do it. But even as me personally, looking at what I do in terms of my personal life, all the images that I take, and there are sort of 12,000 images floating around in the cloud, a fraction of them good enough to keep. So it's taking that time, and also as speaking as Netlife as a consultancy, valuing the time that people put into managing stuff, deleting stuff, making sure that everything that we do and everything that we keep is relevant to people. And I think that's sort of ingrained in our culture as well. So I don't think the gap between where we are today and where we want to be, it's not that big. So I think it's really is possible to turn that around. But one of the big challenges in terms of hype around innovation, everything is new, and the hype around technology, it's sort of driven from the top as well. I mean, last year we have a minister of digitalization in Norway, and he puts out a national strategy for artificial intelligence, and I almost cried. Because what public sector need is not a strategy for artificial intelligence. They need a strategy for how to collaborate and how to work together and how to make, stuff that's useful. I was really furious. So, it's we need to work on so many levels.
Yeah, it's we need a strategy for intelligence.
Yeah, basically.
And we seem to be losing, some of the key aspects that we become lazier.
Yeah.
Like this guy this morning, Nick, was telling me that, his parents every week would review and organize all their bills and and in their job that, there was a focus on organization and what to keep and what to throw away and what to prioritize and what not to prioritize. And it seems that, now that we've got computers, it says, oh, we don't need to do that anymore. It's not, in the process, and that, we can store everything. So I've seen so many disasters with chatbots and et cetera that are so bad, but people want them because they think, oh, we must have a chatbot because we have to look cool, and I suppose there's this constant resistance that it's easier for you to sell crap, because once it's shiny crap and once it's new crap and once it's AI crap or bot crap, or it's a hard thing to educate or to find. I suppose it's a bit easier in Norway because the environment is more mature, so to speak, or less deferential to hierarchical management inspiration, so to speak.
Yeah.
But you still. How do you deal with that? How do you sell the right thing even when people want the shiny irrelevancies?
I think you need to be so oriented on the facts, Gerry. I think you really need to find out the impacts of things and show them numbers. That's what I did in Ruter. I mean, when I came on board in Ruter, they had huge ambitions for technology and self-driving buses and automation and artificial intelligence and all these things. All these buzzwords were flying around the company, and no one could tell me, okay, but what's the impact for our customers? What's the impact for the city, for the citizens? No one could tell me. So, starting to discovering that side of things. And those are the facts that no one else work with, Gerry. That was the other thing. Everyone was so focused on the technology, no one was finding out, so what do people really need from us? What do they really want us to be for them in the city? So I think you need to be really evidence-based, finding out what exactly what people need, and then start measuring and start reporting back to management those results. Start making changes, and pardon my French, fuck the hierarchies, screw management. Pardon my French, but I came in Rute on the fourth level of the organization, and you can say that Norway is not very hierarchical and stuff, but it is. But I think the difference here is you have people on every level in the organization who's well educated, smart, and occasionally you find someone like me who couldn't care less about management and tell them what they need more than what they want to hear.
How, I suppose, do we begin to get metrics in place that say, hey, this site can't ship because its energy consumption rating is 40, we've got to bring it down to 20? Can you see a path in, say, 2 or 3 years that you're going to have these environmental metrics in your digital projects that say, hey, that design is not environmentally friendly, it's consuming too much energy?
Yeah. And I definitely, and we will do some work this year along with you, actually, developing our methodologies around the metrics that we use. And it'd be really interesting to see how, we have metrics for the user experience, we have metrics for the sort of business goals, and then the metrics for the earth experience. And it'd be really interesting to try out with clients and see, okay, but how does this client prioritize then? What is more important to them? And are we able to develop solutions that sort of score high on all the metrics? I think that would be really interesting. And I think that's the key, because, there's a lot of people talking about sustainability and sustainability goals and la-di-la, but we need to make this as concrete and specific and as measurable as we can.
How do we get behaviors in place where, we could say, well, we're going into organizations, say, we're your cleanup crew. You've got 400 gigabyte of data in your organization. When we leave, you'll have 40, and you know what? People will be able to find stuff. You'll be 5 times more efficient. Your search will work 10 times better. Your support organization will be much more efficient because they won't be saying, which bloody one of these 60 versions is it that I should actually click on. So maybe there's models there that we can, really clean up the data, just like we're trying to clean up the seas or trying to clean up the external pollution, and how we help organizations, maybe identify data junk within their environments.
Yeah. When you put it like that, we've been doing Earth experience for 20 years now, because we helped a lot of clients, finding out what's the most important thing, and helping them getting rid of all the other stuff, by looking at the top tasks and finding out what's really important. And it's, for many clients, we've removed 90% of the content, of the data, of the information, say this is deletable, delete it, and then 10% remains, and they meet their business goals. We had one client where we tripled the sales.
I remember, used to have the homepage which said "cut the crap."
Yeah.
for areas.
I want it back. I really want it back.
Yeah, in the processes, and so indirectly you've been doing the Earth experience, or certainly it was part. Do you think, as you've grown and as a consultancy, what do you think? What elements might have got lost, or that that there needs to be a reorientation, or what is the the return to the basics, or that the dangers that we all face? What might some of those dangers be?
I think, well, in terms of our own reorientation, we sort of grew, and then we started growing into, the design field and branding, and sort of missed our priorities. We sort of lost our priorities there for a while, a year or 2 or 3. So I think your point about don't be so caught up in the shiny new thing, that's really, really the key. And sort of, even though, the world around you develops, I think you need to go back to what you really know and what you really do well. And I think that what Netlife really does well is something that the people and the world needs right now. You can scroll through LinkedIn, and you can scroll through, Twitter, and there's all this tech stuff, tech discussions, and the new next thing, and all these things that we've been talking about. And it's not really what's gonna save the world, is it? What's going to save the world is like people being maintaining what they have, nurturing what they have, being focused on what people actually really needs, and how we can make less impact on the planet.
And I think what was key in you with Netlife and always been is, the evidence of use.
Exactly. Yes.
That's what you grew out of. I mean, you were a usability testing company at the very, very beginning, and that a kind of evidence of use. Is this usable? Is it being used? Is it, where are the problems when it's being used? Because in so much we have the launch and leave the shiny object, and
then the client comes back 4 years later and wants a new shiny thing. So that's the other thing as well. I think as an agency, we need to take responsibility for the solutions we put out there. We can say we want to be the guardians of your data. We want to help you nurture the important data and help you get rid of what you don't need.
If we can work with a client over many years, we can do the good, because maintenance isn't something, nurturing isn't something, getting the processes and changing the code. You can't do that in a short project. So maybe that's part of the earth orientation, that we can only really help the earth if we stop doing or do less of these once-off type of things and do more of the maintenance and the nurturing and the evolution and the refinement and the working together. So it's a kind of, we're all struggling in the dark to some degree, trying to say, well, what are the best practices of earth experience type consultancies? Or
but I think I'm gonna pick up one of the points from your book as well. Is that creativity kills the planet. And I mean, we have designers and all these wonderful people, and they actually they get a kick out of making the new thing. So if I tell them you're here to maintain, they're all going to leave, Gerry. But I think it's about hiring the right people as well, and maybe that's one of the things that we missed out over the last couple of years. It's we've become very fond of people who are great at making shiny new things, but if those things are going to keep shining, then we need some other type of people as well.
We need some polishers, who keep like we need gardeners and rather than people who just come in and dig up the garden with a big digger and build a monument. We need people who will weed and nurture and be proud of, that actually I didn't create this, but I nurtured it, or I helped. I reuse this, and I think it's part of the hiring, but also I think in the reward that, I think that thinking about what Microsoft did, that we say you're going to be rewarded based on what you reuse as well, not just what you create, and you're also going to be rewarded on what you shared. If your stuff is so great, then surely lots of other people will be using it. In the environment. And it's funny, somebody was telling me in Microsoft that when they were focused on sharing, then they became much more interested in the metadata. They became much more interested in the structure, and they didn't want the older versions hanging around. They wanted to share the good one, so they were getting rid of their earlier prototypes, etc., or hiding them from the searchers. They became much more conscious of the created thing.
Yeah.
The sense of shifting away from create to the created thing and evolving and nurturing.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a journey there, but it takes us to a kind of map out that we're the map makers of maybe a new phase in human thinking, or how we actually live and actually live our lives and create our businesses.
I've always said that life is too short to make crappy stuff.
Yeah.
And sort of that mantra has been with me for the last 15 years, actually. Like, I don't want to spend my life doing pointless stuff. I want to spend my life doing meaningful things. And I want everyone around me, all my employees, my teams, everyone, my leadership, I want them to feel like I come to work and I do meaningful stuff. And I think refocusing on from user experience to earth experience is what's going to create meaning for us.
If you're interested in these sorts of ideas, I've published a book called Worldwide Waste. You can find out more at gerrymcgovern.com/www. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you'd like to be part of the conversational community, hop on over to thisishcd.com, where you can join the Slack community and help shape future episodes and connect with other designers around the world. Or join the HCD newsletter, where you can win books and get updates. Subscribe to our content on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And listen to any of our design podcasts, such as Getting Started in Design, Bringing Design Closer with Gerry Scullion, Prod Pod with Adrian Tan, and Ethnopod with Jay Hasbrook. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.